Thank you to everyone for joining us. My name is Bronwyn Clark. I'm the Chair of Volunteering Victoria, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to our 2021 Annual General Meeting. I'd like to officially open that meeting now. We will be using the registration record on Zoom to record the number of people and number of members in attendance. And by the number of people we see online and registrations received, we can establish we have a quorum to proceed with this meeting. We have received some apologies and they will be noted in the minutes. So to start our formal proceedings, I'd like to introduce David Tournier, Boon Wurrung Senior Cultural Officer, who will be welcoming us to country today. Thanks, David.
Thank you. Nora, Kunyaba Yerum, Waring, Nariik, David. I'm zooming from you from Wadawurrung country, which is why I use the Wadawurrung greeting, speak that language. I said, hello, good morning, how are you? My name is David. Woman Jika, I'd like to pay my respects to our ancestors, past, present and future. I also want to recognise the commitment that Volunteer Victoria has made here today in paying respects to the spirit of this land and its first people. Through this, you're showing willingness to honour sacred ground that we all walk on. As a descendant of Melbourne's first people, the Bunurong people of the Greater Eastern Kulin Nations, I'm pleased to be able to welcome you here today on behalf of Papanata Caroline Briggs AM. This is the traditional country of the Bunurong people. They are one of the 5 language groups that make up the Southeastern Kulin Nations, which cover Central Victoria. These groups are the Bunurong, the Wadawurrung, the Dja Dja Wurrung, and the Wurundjeri. Our traditional country now consists of a great multicultural city we now know as Melbourne, where we can learn and listen from all aspects and cultures that are here today. The importance of this land and our culture, the spirit of Bunjil, our curator, and his gifts of generosity still influence the land and its people today. What we have learned from our old people, passed down through generations, still resonate with us. These include the core values of showing respect, learning, celebrating life, and honouring sacred ground. As Australians, while we all come from different clans, different language groups, and even countries across the world, we can all learn from these core values. The word welcome in Bunurong is Woman Jika, but its translation is English is come with purpose. It is a contract between the Bunurong as a custodians of this country and yourselves to ensure our laws are adhered to and to guarantee safe passage for those who ask. According to traditions, this land has always been protected by our creator Bunjil, who travels as a wedge-tailed eagle, and by Wa, who protects the waterways and travels as a crow. Bunjil taught the Bunurong to always welcome guests, but requires us to ask all visitors to make 2 promises, which we'll ask you today: to obey the laws of Bunjil and to not harm the children or the land of Bunjil. These commitments was made through exchange of a small bow dipped in water and the spoken words, Woman Jika. So Woman Jika, this is Bunurong country. Thank you. Kunaba, Mediu, Gabata Niich. Have a good day. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. That was a great welcome and some wonderful words there. And we certainly do come with purpose today, and we certainly do commit to those 2 commitments that you ask us to make. So thank you very much. I would like to acknowledge that I'm meeting you today from the lands of the Bunurong people of the Greater Eastern Kulin Nations, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And I'd like to extend that to the traditional custodians across Victoria on which volunteering is undertaken, and we're grateful to be welcome on those lands. I'd now like to introduce Anthony Carbines, the Parliamentary Secretary for Carers and Volunteers. It's a great pleasure to have him join us today for an opening address, and we're really grateful for Anthony's support and commitment to volunteering over this the course of this reporting period. So over to you.
Thanks very much, Bronwyn. I disappeared there for a bit. A few IT issues here in the office. So glad to be back right on time by the sounds of it. I wanted to thank you, of course, as the chair of Volunteering Victoria, as well as Scott Miller, the CEO. It's that sort of time where AGM season, big times for CEOs and for boards of organisations. No different for Volunteering Victoria. To the Honourable Dr. Andrew Lee, who's the Shadow Minister for Treasury and Charities and the Federal Member for Fenner in the ACT, and of course, Federal Parliament sitting at the moment. But fascinating area that he has responsibilities for, and really important in the charitable and volunteering sector. Also wanted to thank Elder David Tournier for his welcome to country. I'm dialing in, of course, from on the banks of the Birrarung here on the Yarra River in my electorate of Ivanhoe, and really pleased wherever you are. We're on the lands of the traditional owners, and I acknowledge both David and other elders who may be with us today. Want to congratulate Volunteering Victoria on another very successful year, and also the work that you guys do, leading a very, keeping people connected and safe in what has been a pretty challenging 18 months and 2 years. And in particular, the work that organisations like Volunteering Victoria have done to keep people connected, to find innovative ways to maintain connections has been really important through the pandemic. Food relief, medical supplies, teaching someone to video loved ones and stay in touch. We've all become dab hands at Zoom and Teams and like organisations and technology, and a lot of that's also come from trying to maintain those connections through volunteering organisations. And we really do say thank you very much for that work. Our government recognises a lot of the hard work that volunteers do in our community. That's why we develop our Victorian volunteer strategy. And I wanted to particularly thank Volunteering Victoria for their policy and advocacy leadership in this area and working with us on that volunteer strategy. We've been right across the state in consultations in partnership with Volunteering Victoria and their staff to meet on the ground right across Victoria. Pandemic aside and lockdowns, we've managed to get right across every nook and cranny in Victoria to meet with volunteer organisations to understand how to reduce barriers to volunteering, how do we make it more accessible, affordable too, where cost is an issue. Diversity, people with disabilities, multicultural communities, how do we make sure they're engaged and involved in the work of volunteering? Those who want to build their skills for employment opportunities, those who have made their big contributions in an employment sense and want to give something back to their local community and stay connected and involved. Lots of work that we've done together to pull all of that strategy draft. We're almost done. And on the 13th of December, as we wrap up the year, we'll be getting together with our volunteering task force to work through the final draft, really, that we'll present back to the Premier. It'll go to Cabinet. It'll get further consideration there. And then we're obviously into budget and other processes to not only launch our strategy into the new year, but how we want to resource and deliver it on the ground, which is really important. And we'll do that in partnership with Volunteering Victoria. I want to also thank you. I've been involved with, I think, some of the launch and work that you've done with some of the guides and the toolkits that have been produced during the pandemic. They've been really critical, as I said, in maintaining good advice to organisations around COVID-safe practices, but also that ongoing engagement in what's been a challenging time. Clearly, we've also had volunteering organisations that have lost people who've stepped back for a range of reasons through COVID. That's pretty clear. So how do we build that engagement back? That's a challenge and a task for all of us. And I think the strategy and its work will come at just the right time to build some momentum in that space. Just before I finish up, I wanted to also mention the Victorian Volunteer Awards. The 2021 awards will combine both the Volunteering Victoria State Awards and the Premier's Volunteer Champion Awards, recognising our incredible efforts of volunteers across the state, but also give their time, their energy and support to others. Nominations for 2021 close on January the 14th next year. Finalists to be announced in February 2022. It'll all be happening. Strategy will be launched around that time too. So busy start to the year for volunteers. And the formal ceremony, that'll happen in March. Fortunately, we can do that in person, which will be great, because cross volunteering, it's really people that make it happen. And we all draw strength from being together and sharing our experiences. So we'll have some more detail on that. Anyone can nominate a team, leaders, individual doing some outstanding work in our community. They're a quick and easy process. So write it down. When the meeting's over, you know people who you can nominate, who stand out as great individuals or programs. We want to highlight that, be inspired by their work, thank and encourage them. And finally, good luck with the panel discussion. Has COVID cancelled volunteers? And I think it just gets back to that aspect of how we re-engage people, do things a bit differently, and hopefully bring some new people into the volunteering experience for our community. So good luck with everyone through that work and the rest of the AGM today. And know that I think ultimately the work that you do has just been really fantastic in differing circumstances. The flexibility and the capacity of volunteers again has shone through, and we're really looking forward to building on the contributions of everyone on our strategy as it hits the ground in the new year, thanks largely to the leadership and the work as well of Volunteering Victoria. So thanks very much. I hope you find time in person with family and friends over the festive season, and we're recharged and ready to rock and roll in the new year with our strategy and our further engagement with Volunteering Victoria. So thanks very much, and all the best with the rest of the AGM. Thanks, Bronwyn.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate those words, and hope that you too can have some downtime over the end of year and the holiday season. And we've really appreciated the great collaboration with state government this year. As you say, there's no more important time for volunteering involving organisations and volunteers themselves in communities at the moment. So I think next year is going to be a great one for us both. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to our AGM agenda now, and you will see there that we will run through a number of reports. I'd like to note that we have received no notices of motion and there are no special resolutions to consider at this meeting. In terms of how we run this meeting, we will, if you do have any questions, we'd ask you to put them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen that you'll be able to see. As we are limited for time today, we will endeavour to answer all questions online or in or live if we have that time, but we'd certainly welcome that. In terms of how we move and second resolutions and motions during this meeting, I wonder if we could ask if someone would like to move or second to put your name in the chat, and so then we will have a record of who that is, and we'll ask for a hands up function if you are in favour of the resolution as it proceeds. Let's move then to the confirmation of minutes of the 2020 AGM, which have been distributed, and I believe the link to them will be put in the chat box. But I think everyone has had access to them before now in any case. So I would like to ask then for a member to move that the minutes as circulated are a true and accurate record of the 2020 Volunteering Victoria Annual General Meeting. Happy to move by Helen Yorston. Thank you very much. Someone like to second that, please? Yes, Heike Fleischmann. Thank you very much. What we will do then is ask for a general show of hands. Good. Yep, I see some hands going up. So thank you. With that motion is passed. I'll move on then to the Chair's report. The 2020-2021 annual report has been circulated in advance of this meeting. And I'll just make some brief comments based on that report. And as we all know, COVID-19 continued to disrupt volunteers, our members and our sector, and our state's recovery during 2020-21 financial year. However, we did continue to successfully navigate the extraordinary challenges presented. While it's not been easy, we at Volunteering Victoria, as well as all of you, our members, have worked relentlessly to assist members of the Australian community in need through volunteering. While we've all had unique experiences of COVID individually and collectively, and we hope that when you read our annual report, you'll agree that we have lived our values of collaboration, innovation, and accountability. There are a number of great successes that we can claim. I'll run through a few here, and I think Scott will follow up with some others during his report. But I think one of the greatest things to happen was our ISO quality accreditation. So in October 2020, the board approved an ambitious work plan for VV to meet the stringent ISO 9001 quality management standard. And after a lot of effort and an incredible effort from our team, in August of this year, so it's post the reporting period, but worth noting, we were very proud to be one of the few community organisations to obtain this international certification. And we certainly feel that that will be a great asset to us going forward as volunteering and as funding arrangements and government relationships become even more complex, then knowing that we're operating from a solid quality foundation is paramount. You'll know that there are also significant changes in the volunteer management activity funding from the federal government, and Volunteering Victoria took a really proactive and pragmatic approach to working with and for volunteer resource centres who are impacted by that redesign of funding. So we had a really extensive consultation process to co-design how new funding will be rolled out in Victoria, and I understand it's quite a different process that we undertook to engage and include, and I don't think all the states across Australia have undertaken such a rigorous process. But we were successful in extending federal funding to the currently funded organisations for at least one more year and made sure that they're all involved in the co-design process. So advocacy is another success that we've had, and you'll have heard from Anthony Carbines that we've been heavily engaged in the development of the Victorian volunteer strategy. So in addition to that, we wrote 7 submissions to government, held 11 separate meetings with political leaders across the political spectrum, and we were a strong participant in the strategy task force. So I think our role there is undisputed. We enabled or enacted a number of new strategies, or not new strategies, but we reinforced existing strategies. And one of those was our commitment as an organisation to place-based volunteering that ties in with that new model of volunteer management activity funding. So we are very proudly a member-based organisation, and so we've been working very closely with federal and state government to make sure that there is a viable place-based services in our communities. We know they're really important right across the state, and that's been one of our strategic priorities in this reporting period, and continues to be. We also commenced a really pragmatic strategy around equity, diversity and inclusion. And we think it's really important that as a peak body we can show some leadership here. And during the year we submitted our Reconciliation Action Plan at the Reflect level for endorsement by Reconciliation Australia. And at the board level, we've been working really hard to reframe some of our narratives and some of our processes even that we know are impacted by our unconscious biases. And so we hope that in the future, Volunteering Victoria will become a more and more inclusive organisation as we seek to be as inclusive as we possibly can. So I would encourage you to read through the annual report. There's a lot of information there. We look forward to continuing our journey towards resilient communities and empowered active people through meaningful volunteering, which is of course our vision. So I would ask then for a member to perhaps put in the chat box if they would be happy to move the acceptance of the annual report. Yes, I have Kerry Uren, who's happy to move, and Penny Aquino will have you as seconder if that's okay. So thank you very much. If I'll have a show of hands for acceptance. Yeah, I'm seeing some hands go up. So thank you very much for that. It's now my pleasure to introduce Michael Wilson, who's the Deputy Chair of Volunteering Victoria and our Treasurer, and he will deliver the financial report. Over to you, Michael.
Thanks very much, Bron. Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to give a quick overview of where we are in financial terms. And firstly, we again had a clean bill of health from the auditors. We're starting to rack those up year after year. Financial performance, we made just shy of $130,000 surplus this year, which leaves us in a fairly solid financial situation going forward to face what will be a new era for Volunteering Victoria. Revenue increased substantially this year, partly due to the new funding streams. Expenses have increased substantially in line with that, really, to improve support to the Volunteering Victoria the volunteering community going forward. One exceptional expense was a SHADS award leave loading liabilities. We had an issue dating back 6 years that was addressed by management, and the process was approved by auditors as part of the audit process. The financial position has improved again this year, and Scott, and with the support of Liz Ross, now have some solid financial processes in place, ensuring that reporting standards are high and surprises are few. So looking forward, revenue should increase again this year before reducing in the following years as the funding process matures. The organisation is projecting another surplus for 2022. Part of that is long-term contracts with the Department of Social Services and Department of Families, Fairness and Housing that put the organisation on a solid footing. So hopefully everyone has had a chance to look at the financial statements, and would someone like to move that we accept the financial statements for financial year 2021? Again, if you can just put something in the chat box. I think I'll see it. If I don't, Bronwyn will tell me, I'm sure.
Yes, John Carruthers has moved, and Tracy O'Neill will second.
Okay, thank you very much. And just raise your hand if you're happy to follow on in that. Again, I'm not going to see many of those hands raised, but I'm presuming there will be a few. So with that all done, I'll pass back to Bron now.
Thanks, Michael.
No worries.
Thanks for all your work throughout the year as well. Now I'd like to introduce Craig Edwards, who's volunteered his time to be the returning officer. As you know, we have a director vacancy, which will be filled through this election. So I'll hand over to you, Craig, for the outcome of that.
If I've reviewed the outcome, the votes, and it's in accordance with the policy. And so I've just closed the email with the new director appointment. Bronwyn, you're just able to let me know who that was again? Sorry.
It was Ash.
Ash, yeah, sorry. My apologies for that. Yeah, Ash was duly elected.
Great, thank you. Wonderful. So welcome to Ash Lee, who is joining us as an elected director. We're really grateful to all of the candidates who put their hand up to join the board. We were really proud and felt very privileged to have such high quality candidates. So thank you very much to Craig for acting as returning officer. Welcome, Ash. We will be catching up with you very soon. And we're really pleased to welcome you to the board. It's wonderful news. Thank you very much. And again, thanks to the other candidates. We really appreciated the time and effort you put into your applications. And yeah, we'd love to keep in touch with you as well. Let's move on now to the CEO's report. It's my pleasure to introduce Scott Miller to deliver his report.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being a part of our AGM again this year. It's my pleasure and privilege to announce and to share with you some of the outcomes from this extraordinary team that I've got the distinct pleasure of leading. Recognising as well that it's coming very close to 11 o'clock and we have an important deliberate to get onto. But look, I really need to celebrate some of the successes that that are covered in our annual report, and that includes what feels like old news now, but really was a major milestone for Volunteering Victoria. Looking over the archive, our State of Volunteering report had been something we've been asking state government for 6 or 7 years. So we're very delighted that we were able to get some empirical evidence in partnership with state government that has allowed us to elucidate the picture of how much of a contribution volunteering makes to the state. And we believe that that will be a keystone document in the development of the volunteering strategy. So while we announced that last November at our last AGM, naturally that was part of our work plan that we did during the last 12 months. So my thanks to the team and to the government for helping us get that across the line. Next thing I want to talk about is our sector development. You know, how do we support you to lead volunteers? You know, fundamentally that is our theory of change. How do we enable a workforce, a collective community movement of 2.3 million people to be able to enjoy the benefits that volunteering accrues to volunteers themselves into our communities? I mean, we recognise, and who wouldn't have heard it a million times by now, just how dramatic the change has been and how we've all had to, dare I use that word, pivot, use that sense of adjustment and to return to, you know, what is an increasing need with a diminished workforce is truly a challenge that we're up for, and that we know that you agree with us. And so we're there, and you know, the team that has delivered comprehensive resources, webinars, engagement opportunities to build back our position is really important. But look, as Michael said, you know, during the year we had a pretty significant setback. It was through some sleuthing of my own that we realised that we haven't been consistent with the SHADS award. So we remedied that during the financial year. We paid back all staff according to their leave liability obligations under that SHADS award. And look, it's part of our compliance regime that, you know, we do these audits and that we can identify when things have gone wrong. Finally, our We Volunteer program has been given a second life, and we're still working with state government to retain the value proposition that important program has demonstrated and continues to chart forward into the next 12 months. So quickly, where do we see ourselves looking this time next year at our next AGM? Well, it's going to be another big year of change. We've had an influx of funding to really redefine what is the volunteer management activity. That's the federal funding. And I am really proud of the team that has made that really, as Bronwyn said, a chance for us to redefine what is possibly the biggest change in that volunteer resource centre space, at least over the last 20 or 30 years. And I can hand on heart say that we've led with our values of innovation, accountability and transparency. And I thank my team for that. We are engaging with state government clearly on the state strategy with the future of We Volunteer and federally, as I say, with VMA. And put it in your diaries now. We've got a state conference planned for the 23rd and 24th of June next year. We're really looking forward to having 150 odd people in the same room. Hear that? That's me touching wood to say that, you know, COVID can rack off. We want to do that. We want to be with everybody face to face. And so we look forward to that. But as always, our membership with you is a partnership accord, and we welcome your expertise and your contribution with us through this journey. Thank you, Bron.
Thanks, Scott, and thank you for all of your hard work, and to the whole Volunteering Victoria team. We're really proud and grateful for your work. Before closing the AGM, I want to acknowledge Angela Seach's 9-year contribution to the Board of Volunteering Victoria, including 3 as chair, as she has now stepped down. Angela's dedication and leadership have left an indelible mark on Volunteering Victoria, and she undertook her director duties with compassion and commitment and helped shape this organisation into a more inclusive, transparent and professional one. On behalf of all the board and all those directors Ange worked with, staff and members, I express our thanks to you, Ange, and wish you many peaceful Thursday nights without board meetings. Thanks to my fellow directors as well. It's been a really big year for all of us, and we've put in a lot of extra efforts. I'm really grateful for that too. So I'd like to now close our meeting and hand you over to the fun part of this morning's proceedings. We're delighted to present the Great Deliberate today, and I'm going to hand over to Geraldine Quinn, who will facilitate that for us. So thanks very much, everyone, and see you again soon.
Dwell, it was hell. Now we're going to focus on the shiny screen. We're gonna focus on the shiny screen. We're taking COVID and its repercussions to start a funky, friendly group discussion. And if this intro's getting you in a tears, imagine how my dog was feeling while I filmed this. Let me explain in terms of catalectic to ease us into this here dialectic. Welcome to the Great Deliberate. Find a room, log into Zoom for some spirited debate. Are you ready for the Great Deliberate? Logic and prose, twos and fro's, with me to mediate. Yeah. Instead of chatting in a kitchen lid, we're hashing out our issues on the internet. It's optimal, pants optional for this waste of online team duet. Out in the mood for some confabulation, respectful dialogue with good citations, ready for the Great Deliberate. I'm gonna share my screen, and without being mean, we will discuss and speculate. Get your pick up on the Great Deliberate. Let's relax, get the facts about the volunteering rate. I'm coming, ladies and gentlemen. I'm right here. In one moment, I will appear like I'm a beautiful vision. Here I am. This is the bit where usually in live performance there'd be rapturous applause, but obviously that's not practical at this point. Hello, my name's Geraldine Quinn. I am your mediator, if you will, for the Great Deliberate. It's very nice to be asked to be here by Volunteering Victoria, where I did once work for a little while. I did a lot of work on the database. I've been a volunteer myself as well. I've volunteered for State Library. I did 4 years with the Green Room Awards Association. I saw an awful lot of cabarets on the cabaret panel. And of course, there's a lot of other work with festivals where we end up doing a lot of volunteering as well. The Great Deliberate today, we've got 2 teams who are going to be discussing and pondering the question, has COVID-19 cancelled volunteering? So on our affirmative team, and they will be arguing that yes, COVID has cancelled volunteering. On this team, we've got Dr. Andrew Leigh, MP, who is the Shadow Assistant Minister for Treasury and Charities, the author of 10 books, which is frankly rude and above the call of anybody's literary prowess, including Reconnected, a community builder's handbook with Nick Terrell. And he's a marathon runner, and not to put him on the back foot there, but I've just started running in the last year, so look out. Angela Seach is also on the affirmative team. She's the director at Volunteering Victoria for the last 9 years. And as mentioned by Bron before, last day on the board. So thank you so much for all of the work that you've done, and it must be emotional for you, but I'm here to try to keep you focused on the affirmative team. Angela is super experienced in workplace investigator, and she's a coach at WorkLogic as well. But who is on the opposing team? Well, let me tell you, on the opposing team, arguing that no, volunteering is still very much alive in spite of what we've been through, is Dr. Lisa Szymanski. She's the CEO of Volunteering Tasmania, who obtained her PhD doctorate in the physiology of flower leaves. No pressure, but I've got a very floral ensemble on today. My brief for my look for the deliberation was, I kind of said to myself, I want to look like a 1977 divorcee hostess at a cocktail party. And I think you'll find that I've achieved that. And also on the opposing team, arguing that no, volunteering is still very much alive, we have Celia Tran. And Celia is the Principal Advisor at the Victorian Multicultural Commission and winner of the prestigious 2016 Premier's Volunteer of the Year Award. She was recently named in the 40 under 40 most influential Asian Australians. I remember 40. And she's the category winner of the Government and Public Sector Awards 2021. So what a fantastic panel we have up in front of us this afternoon. It's morning. It's cabaret. I'm a cabaret person. I'm never up this early. Now, some of you might be wondering why we've called it the Great Deliberate as opposed to the Great Debate. And that's because we want to highlight that the event's collaborative. So we want both sides to be formally discussing and sharing ideas, considering new ones. It's not about a win. It's about hashing out those concepts and having these two opposing sides in order to bring out the nuance of the conversation around how volunteering has been affected by COVID. So we have got some rules, but we've got to remember that it's not about trying to trounce anyone. It's about teasing out all those issues so that everybody together can move forward in a constructive way, exploring all the challenges, the opportunities for post-COVID, and having a bit of fun. I mean, clearly. So our first speakers will have 5 minutes, and the second and third speakers, the third and fourth speakers will have three minutes each. So we're going to start off with the first two will have 5, then we'll have 3. Each speaker will introduce their own points, and they'll have the opportunity to rebut the opposition as well. Because we're on a time limit, we do have a procedure to let you know that you've got 30 seconds left. And I thought I was quite brilliant coming up with this. I am going to, when you have 30 seconds, turn off my video. I know it's going to be difficult for you not to see this vision, but I'm going to turn off my video. I'll do it now to show you what you'll see. You'll get 30 seconds left. My beautiful purple face, 30 seconds left. So if you see that, that means wrap it up. And frankly, if you don't, I'm going to appear on the microphone with my lovely radio voice at about 5 seconds. And although it is a lovely radio voice, it does mean finish your sentence. Okay? So those are our rules. Let's get going. On the affirmative side again, we've got Andrew Lee and Angela Seach. And on the negative, we've got Lisa Szymanski and Celia Tran. So first up, we have Andrew Lee from the affirmative side. Take it away, Andrew, and your time is going to start now.
I believe Andrew has had to go to a vote, and that Scott is going to step in.
We said this might happen. We actually said
It actually happened.
It's possible he might get a call and have to do, his job. And it's like, but it probably won't. That's hilarious. So how do we proceed? Do we want to go with, do we want to take Celia?
No, I believe Scott is going to step in for Andrew.
Oh, okay. So Scott, that couldn't have been more perfectly hilarious if we tried. I was starting to think that I was just talking in a vacuum, but after the last 2 years of having literally no arts work, that's normal for me. So, Scott, is that right?
Yeah.
All right, your time, sorry to dump you in it, starts now.
Thanks, Geraldine. And thank you to Andrew for throwing me in the deep end. I have prepared a few notes just on this very occasion. You know, it's part of my role to risk manage, and ISO certainly taught me about that. So I have 5 minutes to regale you with some very brief notes, because I was very confident that Andrew was going to do us a great service on the 10 books that he's written on community and community recovery, and how that you know, we were putting him on this side here because we felt that he was you know, in the opposition team, and that he would be able to fight fairly and firmly, especially against such opposition that we have today in Lisa and Celia. And at the same time, I'm delighted that I've got Angela backing me up here. And so thank you, Angela, for making sure that, you know, between you and I, we're going to get this. We'll be okay. So first of all, I want to start with a series of truths. We know that volunteerism is a universal social behaviour. We know that volunteerism builds on people's desire to engage with change rather than to passively experience development processes. And we also know that voluntary action is one of the clearest expressions of the human values and agency underpinning their drive to help others. You know, so we know all that. However, you will agree that Australia, as much as most other countries, my home country, New Zealand included, has been suffering a steady decline in traditional volunteerism. And that's had an impact on the operations of fire brigades, health institutions, community organising, the whole schmozzle. So we are, may I say, regretfully, experiencing a downward slide. And COVID has accelerated that. Let's be true. Let's be honest here. You know, and there's reasons for that. There's increased mobility. There's an urbanisation of young people that impede a continuous engagement in the traditional organisations, which are typically based on regular in-person meetings. And given that we've seen COVID really kind of kick the guts of in-person meetings, you know, we basically can just kiss it goodbye. Goodbye volunteering. Goodbye in person. You know, we had. Did I say in my last speech, 85 questions about people wanting to know about in-person volunteering through the vaccine mandate. We have a replacement of class and community-based identities by increasingly individualistic lifestyles. That makes membership in traditional organisations unpalatable, less attractive. Finally, volunteering engagement has got to compete with the fact that people's expectations are changing. They want to spend their time watching Netflix. They want to spend their time balancing between family, work, and really those other things that make volunteering just feel a bit more boring. So it's my view, through a deliberate today, to say that, look, volunteering is, you know, it's under the hammer. COVID has really kind of got its foot on our neck, and we need to, you know, use this opportunity to just accept it, to accommodate it, and to say, you know what, you've got a 43% increase in demand, 56% of organisations saying that they need more volunteers. It's time for government to just acknowledge that, you know, where would they be without volunteers? Well, that's their tidal wave. It's coming, and good luck. Good luck, Team Negative, but really, afraid to say it, volunteering is cancelled.
I didn't even have to lean in and do a 30 seconds then. You were like well under time. You could have gone on for another 70 seconds if you had if you wanted to. But look, that's not to say I'm not very proud of you for coming in at the last minute. So that's the first case for our affirmative. We're going to move over to the negative now. And we have Lisa Szymanski, whose name I hope I'm pronouncing correctly. If not, you have permission to mispronounce my name at least twice by this count. You now have 5 minutes. Now, my picture isn't going to work, so if we get to 30 seconds, you'll hear my voice, but I'll try to make it not too obtrusive. All right, Lisa, your 5 minutes for the negative starts now.
Thank you so much, Geraldine. Nice one stepping in, Scott. Now I have to switch all my politician jokes to Kiwi jokes, but that's okay. We can all move on. I'm Lisa Szymanski. I'm the CEO of Volunteering Tasmania. As our Premier famously said at the beginning of the COVID outbreak, we have a moat and we're not afraid to use it. We certainly did use it. We're not sure if we're coming back into the fold or not. Maybe. Watch out for 15th of December. I was going to break ranks on this debate and just debate the merits of Tasmania versus Victoria, but given my audience, I decided that I might lose that one. What I will say though is while I do have a Victorian audience, we all know what you've been through. We've all seen it over here on the other side of the moat, and we know, I hope you know that we stand with you and we have been thinking of you. You are on your road to recovery. I also want to introduce Celia Tran. As Geraldine has already said, I have a fabulous partner in crime. She's a massive supporter of volunteering and a volunteer from childhood. So I'm in very good hands. Scott, well done for stepping in. Yes, there is individualism. Yes, we have lack of person volunteering. Yes, expectations have changed. Well done. Nice try. None of us believe that that's what you truly think of volunteering. Because what we really know is that when times are tough, communities galvanise and come together. They support one another, and COVID is absolutely no different. In fact, it has absolutely demonstrated what we do as communities. So what I will say is that we will prevail, we bounce back, and we've never stopped giving. We've just done it in a different way. And I will do that by demonstrating it through two different points. COVID has not cancelled volunteering. Firstly, we need to look at the economic and social benefits of volunteering to community, society, and to government. VVIC's own State of Volunteering report, which was a massive effort, and well done, VVIC, shows 2.3 million volunteers and over 500 million hours contributed to volunteering every single year. You are superb volunteers. And it contributes $58 billion worth of value to Victorians every year in economic, social, cultural, and individual benefits. But there's one figure that often gets overlooked, and that is the $19 billion it would cost every year to replace the labour of volunteers in Victoria. To give you some context, that means that if we were to convert volunteers into wages, the number of hours that they do, it'd be 1.5 times larger than the government's wage bill. It would represent 42% of the entire private sector's salary costs. We can't afford to lose volunteering. We couldn't survive without volunteering. Let's look at the societal benefits. Volunteering Tas has done some modelling on this in our own state. It shows that by 2029, if we do not change the way we look at volunteering, there will be a 40% gap between supply and demand of volunteers. Now, I haven't switched sides. 7% of that gap is the supply. 7% is we've got a decreasing number of volunteers. The rest of that gap is demand. There is an increasing demand for what volunteers give. And the bulk of that demand is in aged and disability and community services. Our society needs its volunteers. Now, here was my joke to Andrew. I'll just put it to Scott. Think of it like the tax system. It's just too big to fail. So my second point is that volunteering has prevailed. We have absolutely the evidence to show that. So instead of cancelling volunteering, COVID actually moved it into informal volunteering. The latest ABS General Social Survey demonstrates that. In Tasmania, we had the Northwest farmers donating tons of vegetables down south where we needed them to support our international students. And it was the freight companies that donated their time. We've seen so many examples through kitchen gardens supplying soups to their schools and through churches supplying food to all of their communities.
30 seconds, you have 30 seconds.
All right, now we are back. Volunteering is back in Tasmania. We are your demonstration state. We have not had COVID since June last year, apart from a couple of holidays and lockdowns, but 80% of our volunteers are back. People want to volunteer. We are the evidence of that. Go Team Positive, beat that.
Hope I wasn't too obtrusive with my ABC Melbourne voice there, just angling for a gig. Thank you so much, Lisa Szymanski. Delighted to find that I wasn't mispronouncing your name. It matters a lot to me to try to get it right. And next up, with a 3-minute limit, I believe is correct, I will again lean in and give you my honey tones at 30 seconds. Angela Seach, you're up next. Your time starts now.
Thanks, Geraldine. COVID-19 has cancelled volunteering. The evidence is clear. Now, Lisa has said that the social and economic benefits of volunteering are too great for us to allow it to be cancelled by COVID. That's true, but it's not the subject of this debate. 2.3 million people stopped volunteering during the pandemic. She's also said that formal volunteering has simply been replaced by informal volunteering. That's a bit like doing a Stephen Bradbury, isn't it? And if you're not familiar with the reference, have a look at the speed skating final of the 2002 Winter Olympics. It's the most funny piece of video you're ever likely to see from the Olympics. COVID-19 has cancelled volunteering, and I know that's hard for us to acknowledge because it suggests we've all become a bit selfish. But I'm going to give us all a little gift right now, and that's my first point. Personal capacity to volunteer during the pandemic has been severely curtailed, but it's not because we've become selfish. It's simply that we haven't had the bandwidth. What's happened can be explained by Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, Maslow's hierarchy says that at the most basic level as humans, we need to meet our physiological, so that's our food, shelter and safety needs, before we can meet our higher order social needs. Now, I have a diagram that's currently showing, I think, to demonstrate what's happened to the hierarchy during the pandemic. And it's a bit technical, I know, so bear with me. Now, look, that's a bit of fun. But the point is, volunteering is a higher order need. And when people are struggling to make it through the day, of course, it slips off the radar. While it's true that the personal capacity to volunteer has been severely limited by the pandemic, it feels a bit like victim blaming to focus only on that, and it ignores the elephant in the room. And that's my second point. The reliance on formal volunteering means that we have not been prepared for the seismic changes that have occurred in our society. Like water on pavement, the pandemic has found the cracks in the volunteering system, but this is not an aberration that will go away. Now, Lisa said that volunteering is bouncing back in Tasmania, and that's an indicator that everything will be fine. I love the optimism, Lisa, but Tassie's 5 weeks in lockdown is hardly a valid comparison for Melbourne and Sydney. In any case, the ABS data has shown a steady decline in formal volunteering since 2010. This year alone, Volunteering Australia did a survey of volunteering involving organisations and found that 41% reported finding it difficult to re-engage or recruit volunteers, and 42% were not confident that they would achieve pre-COVID levels of volunteering post-pandemic.
30 seconds, that's 30 seconds.
25% reported taking action. That's 17% who are worried but not doing anything about it. In a post-pandemic world, people are likely to be even more critical in determining how and when they give their time and energy, not less. COVID has cancelled volunteering, and we need to decide whether we'll finally respond.
I got to say, you guys have all been spot on after the warning at the wrap up. It's impressive. I've seen an awful lot of people do comedy rooms who can't get that concept into their head, but you guys on it. Okay, thank you so much, Angela. That was wonderful. I've never been a big fan of Maslow, but I think that second diagram, that's really resonated with me over the last let's face it, over most of my life. I live alone. The internet is my friend. But we have one last speaker, again with 3 minutes. Again, I'll give you a 30-second warning. It's Celia Tran. Celia, take it away.
Thank you, Jodine, and the team at Volunteering Victoria. I'm the second final speaker for the regular team. You've heard our second speaker, Angela, on the third team, try to tell you that the personal capacity of people to volunteer is over, and therefore it's cancelled, and she made reference to Maslow's hierarchy. While she's pulled out the psychologists, our team wants to pull out the counter with anthropologists. Probably the most famous cultural anthropologist of all time, Margaret Mead, was once asked, what is the quintessential sign of civilization? And in response, she said, a hued femur. in an animal kingdom, you break your leg, you die. But a broken femur that has been healed is an evidence that someone has taken time to stay with it, protect it, and tend to its wound and support them to recover. Helping someone else through difficulty is when civilization starts. Her second point on the rigidity of formal modes of volunteering, and she even pulled out the bribery medal incident. I think go underdogs, and once you remove those barriers, the flood of winners will come, and those winners are the informal volunteers. Just ask any Victorian living in the hardest hit suburbs. They will tell you at the wonderful heart of the community is the stories of their neighbours, their community groups, churches, mosques stepping up to fill those gaps in serving in the most informal but most beautiful way to show the beauty of the community. I also wanted to share with you 2 points as to why we think volunteering isn't cancelled. Lisa mentioned the economic and social benefits of volunteering, which is incredible, and that we have prevailed. Tasmania and Victoria being classic cases. But my point is to also show that COVID has had, whilst a devastating impact, volunteering has been incredible for people's mental health, sense of belonging, and connectedness. Studies have shown that volunteering throughout the pandemic has helped tackle loneliness and isolation in vulnerable communities, especially senior groups and multicultural communities. It gives them a sense of purpose and belonging. A recent ANU research commissioned by Volunteer Australia also showed that as we move into the recovery phase, mental health benefits for volunteering is the way to go. And there is so much opportunity to explore how volunteer opportunities might extend to more people. Another research shows that volunteering is good for social cohesion over the pandemic. It found that people over the age 70 years and more, and even though with greater risks of serious disease and death in 2020, increased volunteering, as well as a 15% increase from communities like ethnic communities who wouldn't usually go down the formal volunteering route.
30 seconds, Celia.
Okay.
30 seconds.
Finally, volunteering has been essential for our emergency services. You've seen it in the pandemic, you've seen it in the bushfires. More crises are going to come, as communities are essential to understanding who we are, especially in regional and rural communities where they've been hit hardest. So, volunteering is well and alive, and I think in the most unique forms in the community, the informal world is increasing, and that doesn't mean that it's cancelled. Thank you.
Thank you, Celia. That's some really great points about mental health and finding purpose and combating loneliness and volunteering, giving people that opportunity. I mean, I'm not biased by any means, but I definitely found when I was doing stuff with things like Green Rewards, and it gave me an opportunity to interact with people when I didn't have anything else going on. So, but again, I'm not biased. I'm a mediator. But we do have an opportunity for people to rebut. I'm not sure, actually, in my notes, what the time limit for the rebuttal is. Is it, I don't know. I don't even know where to look to find out. I mean, I can just lean in. And 3 minutes. Okay, you got 3 minutes. So I'll do the same. I'll give you a 30-second. Thank you. I feel like I'm just multitasking like crazy here. I'm just amazed my dog hasn't started barking in the background. She did just before I came online. So, not Andrew, aka Scott. You have got 3 minutes with a 30-second warning to rebut what the other team was saying, starting now.
And just like I was praying all through the AGM that Andrew would be here, and that, you know, our worst nightmares that Andrew wouldn't be here would work, and my prayers would be answered, that he would at least come back for the final 3 minutes. So Andrew, mate, you're going to have to buy us a beer or something, because this is unacceptable. The fact, though, that they're debating the ICAC is something near and dear to my heart, and we do need to clean up those corrupt politicians. Anyway, that's a debate for another day. I want to remark, first of all, that we're meeting in our community house, the team around me today, and so Dennis Moriarty is the CEO here. He has some pretty chilling words that I think, you know, we need to amplify here. He says, a trilogy of terror is threatening the Australian community sector, which is facing increased demand for services, a reduction in donations, and a catastrophic collapse in volunteering. He says the only thing that will save Australia's 600,000 community groups will be Australians' continued faith in them, and a bloody big investment by government to ensure that the sector can invest in technology and reskill its workforce. We need a major industry plan for the future. Well, dear friends, colleagues, here I am saying that bloody volunteer strategy better have the goods in it, because if it doesn't, well, we know where to look and blame them. You know, we know that there is millions of dollars that needs to come pumping into the Victorian volunteering sector. But, you know, we've seen Anthony Carbines this morning, and, you know, we really need to kind of make sure that he delivers, because frankly, anything less than that, and we will just see that trilogy of collapse coming towards us. So next point I want to make is you know, Lisa says communities galvanise, and I say baloney. I say we bowl alone, to quote Robert Putnam. You know, he really defined the concept of communities, and I've mentioned this a little bit in my opening remarks, that we are individualistic. You know, we are falling alone, we're bowling alone, we're Netflixing alone. And thank you, Geraldine. I'll accept that. You know, Netflix has been everyone's best friend, and Squid Game. I mean, who hasn't watched Squid Game? You know, if you haven't, you know, that's what I would rather be doing than volunteering, frankly, sometimes. So the fact that, you know, mental health is diminished and people that had to stop volunteering shows, you know, the mental health wave that, you know, we're still in the front of, and that we really need to capture. Social prescription is being offered as a response, but, you know, we're dubious around here of, you know, telling people what to do in terms of volunteering. You know, volunteering is fundamentally an act of generosity, of free will, and we need to respect that. Socially prescribing it, we'll have another debate about that another day.
30 seconds, that's 30 seconds.
I want to talk briefly, and I have to talk even faster, about the professionalisation of volunteering, and it is pulling apart community grassroots organisations, and COVID is doing that through formalising that obligation of volunteers to be police officers, vetting volunteers for their vaccine status. It is really harming the way that we bond across our community good, and we're going to see more of that. So I believe, you know, and lastly, economic stress, economic numbers. We are not an economically valuing community. Volunteering is done for the generosity of community galvanizing spirit and social capital. It isn't about trying to bolster economic dollars. So, you know, trying to tell us that we had $56 billion is ambitious, but doesn't really do value to the countless hours that we donate through heart and goodwill. So my final remark, thank you, Geraldine, is that we have got to rely on government. Thank you very much.
Hey, I don't mind you going a bit over. You only took like 3 minutes in your 5-minute bit, so you're fine. You've evened out fine. Thank you so much, Scott. And our last rebuttal, you've got the last word on this one, Lisa. So get involved, going to stop, going to reset, and your time starts now.
Thank you, Geraldine. I'm just going to say what I'm going to say. I hope 3 minutes does it. Scott, I would love to bow down to that wonderful speech, but it ain't going to cut it. You are right, though. We need massive investment. You and Ange, I can't argue with you. You know, all of your points were spot on. They're true, they're real, and volunteering has taken an absolutely massive hit. Maslow's hierarchy holds. We must look after our own needs first. Formal volunteering structures were ill-prepared for the tsunami of the pandemic. That is a truth, and we've got to adapt. If we want to hold this sector together, we have to adapt to a new operating environment, and that is the lesson of COVID. But you know, there's an amazing thing about volunteering. And just as you said that the pandemic found the cracks within our volunteering pavement, let me use another water analogy. Volunteering is like water backing up against a weir or a dam. It will find a way, it will spill over. Because you know what? People just simply want to give. They want to support one another. They want to galvanise. Scott, you're wrong. You know that. We are not individualistic. We are a community and we are a social creature. It is what holds our civilisation together. Margaret Mead could not have got that wrong. So to summarise our points, the economic benefit to volunteering in Victoria holds. It's your research, buddy. So you can't deny it. Could you imagine, just imagine for 1 minute, being the head of an industry or a union that represented 2.3 million people? whose salary bill was $19 billion a year. You would get weekly meetings with the Premier, with the Prime Minister. Hang on a minute, we don't. Why don't we? This is what we need to change in volunteering. We need the power politically to show how important and valuable volunteering is. Because you know what? They cannot afford to let us fall. They cannot afford to let volunteering fail. We've demonstrated in Tasmania, 5 weeks or not, hey, that was tough. And we had another 3 days. So, you know, geez, Ange.
30 seconds.
That recovery is possible. I do struggle with which side of this deliberate I truly am on. I fundamentally believe in the workforce power of volunteering. I fundamentally believe in the political and social movement. But I truly fear that if we do not pay more attention as a society and politically to volunteering, we will become something that used to happen. Volunteering will be something we used to do, and that's not good enough. COVID should be scaring the hell out of all of us because there is a reason we are having this deliberate. It's a real issue that requires real attention. We need to be fighting harder and making a hell of a lot more noise collectively to really and truly show how valuable but vulnerable volunteering currently is. I want to leave you with a statement that truly resonates with me. Volunteering is the ultimate exercise in democracy. When you volunteer, you vote every day for what community you want to live in. Thank you.
I got to say, Scott, I think Andrew threw you under the bus there. Lisa's very good. So, that is the end of the Great Deliberate. There have been some amazing comments being made as well. I was trying to keep my eye line up so you didn't see how bad my lash glue was because I was doing my face at 8 o'clock in the morning. But there's wonderful comments in there. Thank you so much to all of the debaters. And just a reminder that the Deliberate isn't supposed to have a winner. It's so that we can look at some of these concepts, look at some of the problems and some of the solutions and think about the landscape as it was and as it can be in the future. So we hope that you've been entertained, even though my real hair barely fits in the screen. And we hope that you've had something to take away both in the comments and from what the debaters, or should I say deliberators, have had to say here. Now, the only question I have is I'm not sure if I'm the one who's doing the big send-off or if I'm throwing it back to someone like Bron. I mean, I'm getting a direct message right now. Oh, I'm getting finish it off. Okay, that was blunt. So thank you so much to everybody who has been here today. I haven't seen all of you, but I'm sure you're all fabulous because everybody is fabulous. Some of the best stuff that I've ever been involved in has been people who've given their time because they really care about the scene that they're in and the people that they're with, and the arts really says that perhaps most poignantly over the last couple of years in Melbourne. So thank you very much. Hope we gave you lots to chew over and think about and to act upon in the future. I'll do a wonderful gesture and hope that somebody ends the meeting.
Dwell, it was hell. Now we're gonna focus on the shiny screen. We're gonna focus on the shiny screen. We're taking COVID and its repercussions to start a funky, friendly group discussion. And if this intro's getting you in a tears, imagine how my dog was feeling while I filmed this. Let me explain in terms of catalectic to ease us into this here dialectic. Welcome to the Great Deliberate. spirited debate. Are you ready for the great deliberate? Logic and prose, twos and fro's, with me to mediate. Yeah. Instead of chatting in a kitchen lid, we're hashing out our issues on the internet. It's optimal, pants optional, for this waste of online team duet. I'm in the mood for some confabulation. Respectful dialogue with good citations. Ready for the great deliberate. I'm gonna share my screen, and without being mean, we will discuss and speculate. Get your pick up on the great deliberate. Let's relax, get the facts about the volunteering rate.